What up, everybody? There's going to be a major death coming at some point in BMF Season 4 based on the pictures I have on the screen. The first picture I have on the screen is Lucille Flannery at a funeral, grieving hard, covering her mouth, and trying to hold back her emotions. So we know based upon the way Lucille is reacting in this picture, somebody close to her has passed. Now looking at the second picture, we can identify a few more people in this picture who are attending the funeral. There's Meech, Terry, Hoop, Nicole, Breeze, Lucille, and Tina. And there's an additional female who I can't identify, and a man who I can't identify, that it looks like it could potentially be Charles, but I can't tell for sure. Also notice Meech has braids in this picture, so there has to be some kind of time jump, and it looks like Breeze is standing with a baby stroller, so it looks like there will be a several month time jump by this point. So the question is, whose funeral are they attending? Either though Purdy got shot at the end of the last episode, we know this isn't her funeral because of the fact there will be a time jump before this happens. The Flannerys do have family in Cleveland, but I don't think Hoop and Tina would be attending a funeral, say, if Meech and Terry's grandmother died or something like that. Plus, you would think we would see more people than just the characters we already know. We would see other family there, like Lucille's cousin, Estelle. So to me, this seems like it's most likely B. Mickey's funeral. But with that said, I don't see his baby mother or his child in the photo either. Either though the baby that Breeze is standing with could potentially be B. Mickey's child, and the girl standing behind Hoop could be his baby mama. But that doesn't look like her though. And other than B. Mickey, the only death I could see causing Lucille to react that way would be the death of Charles. So if it's not Charles walking behind Hoop, this could potentially be Charles' funeral. Now keeping in mind that Charles didn't die in real life till 2017, and the character that B. Mickey's based off of, D. Meeks, is still alive to this day. So either way, they're changing up the story a little bit if it's one of those two's funeral, who they're at. But it would make more sense for it to be B. Mickey's funeral because the fact I don't think he was no longer connected to Meech or Terry at this point in the timeline. So either though we don't know whose funeral it is, I think we most likely know who calls the funeral and put whoever's funeral this is in the ground. And that's Lamar. After getting shot by B. Mickey in episode 1 of this season, Lamar finally made his return in episode 5 after about 3 months of time. One of the bullet wounds had been continuously bleeding and had even started to get infected. So because of that, Lamar paid a visit to his cousin Alvin, and after he got stitched up, he killed Alvin for his part in helping Meech turn Lamar into a basehead, cremating Alvin alive before walking out and taking off in Alvin's car, leaving the question, what's Lamar's next move? I think Lamar's next move will be trying to figure out who shot him in episode 1 when he was about to take out Meech and Terry, if he doesn't know who shot him already. Keep it in mind he was gone right after B. Mickey, Meech, and Terry all fled the scene. All there was blood on the ground, so he didn't stay down for too long and could have easily still been conscious enough to look over and see B. Mickey talking to Meech and Terry. Then that would definitely make B. Mickey Lamar's next target. Going back to Lamar's return in season 2 after he was shot the first time by Meech, and everybody thought he was dead. At that point, he went after everybody who had took a shot at him before. He shot Meech, but Meech survived. But Lamar did end up killing the 2 guys from the 12th Street crew, Tiny and Old Boy, that he dumped the shitbag out on for doing a drive-by and taking shots at him. So in the same type of way, we got to believe that Lamar will be coming for B. Mickey next. And that's potentially why we see the Flannery family all attending that funeral. And Lucille was crying the way she was, keeping in mind that Lucille has always considered B. Mickey family, and he has begun to bond with both Charles and Lucille this season, even asking Charles to be his best man at his wedding, and for Lucille to officiate the wedding. But we know that Lamar's real target is Meech, but Lamar really has no way of finding Meech or getting to him because Meech hardly ever comes back to Detroit like that anymore, and even if he did, he would be in and out without Lamar knowing. The reason why Lamar was able to catch Meech slipping in episode 1 is because he knew Meech would be coming back to Detroit for his sister's graduation. Now going back to the picture, and Bree standing with the baby stroller. The next time Meech might come back to Detroit could potentially be when Nicole gives birth. So maybe Lamar attacked when Meech was home for Nicole giving birth to her child, and potentially somebody like B. Mickey or maybe even Charles steps in the way and takes the bullet for Meech. But right now, because the fact that everybody thinks Lamar is dead, the Flannerys are extremely vulnerable to an attack from Lamar also. Keep it in mind that he's already showed up to the Flannerys' home before with intention to kill, but when Lucille started praying for him, he changed his mind. At that time, there was even supposed to be guards watching the Flannerys' house, but I guess Lamar came when they weren't there. Right now, there's no guards watching the Flannerys' home because they don't think there's any kind of threat. So Lamar could potentially make another home visit to the Flannerys, but this time catch Charles. Or maybe B. Mickey's walking up and catches Lamar. Maybe he saves Lucille, Nicole, or Charles, but gets killed in the process. And there's also the new vulnerability when it comes to Lucille, and that's the fact that she's pastoring the church now. If Lamar finds out about that, it could be a major problem moving forward if he decides to start attending Lucille's church. Keep it in mind that it's not only Lucille who's terrified of Lamar, but Nicole is also, because Lamar killed her first boyfriend Darius right in front of her. So Lamar might have it on his mind, since he can't get to Meech, to start showing up at Meech's mother's, Lucille's church every Sunday and make Meech come to him. Keep it in mind that Lamar already showed up at Pastor Snoop's church in season 2, causing a scene, but Snoop was strapped at the pulpit and had a bunch of elders sitting in the front row who were OGs who weren't playing with Lamar. But we know Lucille's not strapped in the pulpit, and she probably doesn't have OGs in her church like that either, other than Charles, or maybe B. Mickey if he's there, who could step up and try to do something to Lamar if he comes to the church and makes a scene. So that could potentially be why Lucille was crying so hard. Maybe Lamar showed up at her church and B. Mickey tried to do something to him, but ended up getting killed. Lamar could also show up at B. Mickey's wedding and take him out while he's at the altar saying his wedding vows. And there's also the fact that B. Mickey was supposed to be having Charles come back to his house and help him fix some things also. And because we haven't seen this take place yet, and it wasn't said for no reason, this could also come back into play. Because there's a chance that Lamar wasn't behind the death of the person whose funeral they're attending. Keep it in mind what Terry told Hoop when Hoop asked him why he was bringing B. Mickey back instead of just using him. Terry told Hoop it was because B. Mickey was disposable, and when bodies start dropping, he doesn't want Hoop to be around it. So this lets us know that Terry could potentially end up getting B. Mickey into some kind of problems and put an even bigger target on his back from somebody like Jay Pusher and his people in St. Louis. Now what would be really interesting would be if whatever Terry was planning to use B. Mickey for, to where he didn't care if B. Mickey lived or died, and the people who Terry get B. Mickey into problems with come looking for B. Mickey and potentially find him at his house when he's there with Charles, and Charles could step in the way of that bullet that was intended for B. Mickey and end up getting killed, ultimately being Terry's fault that his father ended up getting killed. Because there's also the fact that neither Charles or Lucille know that B. Mickey has gotten back into the game either. B. Mickey's keeping that quiet and not letting them know about that. So there you have it. Let me know whose funeral you think the Flannerys are attending in those pictures, and what you think went down in the comments, as well as your thoughts, theories, and predictions.